Greetings, Psychonauts. Another hot one today. Um, let's pick up paragraph 12. Um, Make a correction from last video also. I think, what was it about? I said space has no attributes. Can't be defined. Talking about Einstein's theory, space-time theory. I was wrong on that. It was actually space does have attributes, but it does not have properties. So, kind of like a shadow. Shadow is not a thing. It's just absence of light. It has attributes. You get cooler if you stand in it, but it doesn't have any properties in and of itself. So space is the same thing. Anyway, let's carry on for number 12. That was our correction from last video. So paragraph 12 talks about holograms, which is all this, right? I'm assuming. And so they make an analogy. You drop imagine dropping a pebble in a bowl of water. As soon as you drop it in, you freeze it. Flash freeze instantly freezes, and from the ripples and from the ripples that generate from the pebble as it was sinking, you can tell exactly where the pebble is. If you extrapolate, how big the waves are and how they're shaped and which direction they're shaped. You can kind of find out where the pebble is, and so you don't even need the whole picture of the frozen bowl to find a pebble. You can just take a little section of it and kind of do the measurement from there and extrapolate out, right? So, but the smaller the piece, the less accurate it's going to be. But you can still get a good overall. So it's very good method of storing information. An excellent method of storing information. So they talk about that, and they talk about being so holograms can encode so much detail that you can go back and zoom in on like a drop of water and see the the cells inside the water. There was a scene on Blade Runner where they, if you saw Blade Runner, the first one, old school one, or he got a 2D photograph and he would zoom in on any point and he could zoom in almost to the molecular level on anything. That's pretty cool. So that's what they're saying they can do, or I don't know if they're saying they can do it, or anybody else knows about holograms. Let me know. But they're pretty much. And so then it goes to talk about lasers and holograms and how as you use two lasers onto the hologram, and they create an interference pattern where you can get your information from. And so what's his name? He invented hologramic math, or whatever you want to call it, the math for the holograms in the 70s. But his stuff didn't really get big, they're saying, until lasers came out. And the lasers are how you really enable the holograms. So they shoot the laser, the two lasers through the one vertical, one horizontal, through the whatever field. I don't know what. Still working at this. And whatever bounces off of the laser will bounce, and we create the pattern, and that picture is taken, and that's the hologram is produced. So after that, paragraph 13, 12 was holograms. 13, the part encodes the whole, and it talks about what I said before, when you can take a piece of that frozen pond and like a little chunk of the ice that we've quick froze from dropping a pebble, and you can kind of figure out the whole picture of the whole bowl from that little piece of ice if you examine it, and the shape and the waves. And you can extrapolate where the pebble is just from that little piece. And they're saying the part that encodes the whole is just a little piece can encode the whole. You don't need the full You just need a fraction of the information you're seeking, and you can kind of extrapolate that out and get the full info. Kind of like an as below, as above, so below kind of thing, right? So more metaphysics in there. So finishes off with it says billions of bits of information can be stored in a tiny space. And so, bingo. That's holograms. And so you need to talk about this holograms because we're going to talk about consciousness now. And so we talked about reality and how I perceived it on my trip. If you watched this video, with all the pixels and the vibration, different vibrations, and everything is pixelated, even empty space. You know, it's just the ether, right? So this is more of an ether base, and everything is just not really matter, but it's energy grid. So everything is a different vibration of energy grids. Even our mind will be enclosed vibrational frequency that we can change to perceive more or less of the universe around us. And so, like when we do our Shrumans, one of my theories is I was saying we vibrate at a different level, so we're able to perceive the colors and sounds that were on the spectrum that we're not able to see. I'll put a little video up. So if you see the color spectrum here, this is our visible spectrum, and we have all this out there around us. Who knows what's going on around us? And I just think, okay, we're back. Technical difficulties again. Anyway, I was talking about perception and how our vibration rate enables us to perceive less or more of the universe around us, and with its own specific energy grid vibrations, right? So everything is an energy grid: matter, sound, light, and when you're able to harmonize with it, you're able to extrapolate information from it. This is talked about later in the paper also. So, going forgot what I was going with that, but anyway, paragraph 14 is called the consciousness matrix, and it talks about interacting energy fields. Okay, kind of what I just talked about, I guess. That's what I was going with, and it talks about, so what we do with our consciousness is make sense of this holographic image around us, and how we do that is by comparing it to our past experiences, because that's all we have to use for to get meaning out of things, is to compare with what we know from our memory that we get from our energy grid, our memory energy grid, right? So we compare those things, we make a judgment based on that, and they're saying it's binary, like just like computer, like the 0 and 1. So we make it, either or. So we're getting all this information, and we're doing this. As we get this information, we're placing these, positive or negative affirmations into whatever some database, and we're gonna process that into our consciousness, right? So, yeah, pretty deep shit, right? And this is supposed to be the easy part. As after chapter 4, like chapter 18, paragraph 18, it starts getting deep, they say. Yeah, so basically, here's a nice paragraph. Last sentence of the paragraph in number 14. Contrary to what everyone knows is so, it may not be that the brain that Contrary to what everyone knows is so, it may not be that the brain that produces consciousness. So there's a typo. That's not me. That's a typo. So what they're saying is, it's not the brain that produces consciousness. It's that consciousness creates the appearance of the brain. That's what they're saying. But there's a little typo there. Maybe you look stupid. All right. Anyway, 15. Brain in phase. So they're trying to. How am I gonna do this? Let's talk about the comparison thing, I guess. So the inputs we get from the hologram, we compare to our past experiences that we've had, because that's all we have. That's all we have. And so whenever we perceive something, we only perceive differences. And so, like, they're saying stuff in the hologram is not detected unless it's moving. It has to be moving. If it's still, it's like undetectable, kind of like some T-Rex shit, right? And so that's how we detect differences. And so the movement we're detecting is the differences of the different vibrations. And so that's how we're seeing objects. It's like movement to us. And so we're only way we can perceive things is through differences, right? And yeah, that's what brain in phase is talking about. And so, in phases, also you can, I think it talks about psychedelics in here, you know. Um, I mean, not psychedelics. I mean, expanding. I mean, using both, you know, hemisyncing. Okay, in states of expanded consciousness, the right hemisphere of the human brain, in its holistic, nonlinear, and nonverbal mode of functioning, acts as a primary matrix or receptor. So we want all this stuff coming in the right brain to create shit. And then the left hemisphere just provides a secondary coherence for the right brain. That's all it does. It doesn't process all the information first before the left brain gets it all fucked up and edited. Right. So yeah, and then they reduce it to two-dimensional form. So basically, when you want to get hemisync or you're going into the higher realms of consciousness, you're getting your input into your right brain. So the creative side, so you're able to receive it as is without having to get edited, and then which is left brain, which edited from our past experiences, right? And so that's what they're saying, as opposed to being just walking around and getting your shit into the left brain and processing it and seeing how you feel about that afterwards. So that's brain in phase. So we're trying to get in phase with the left brain reception, right? I mean, right brain reception of information. All right. Evaluation. Uh, so what they're trying to do is refine, they're saying, the energy matrix of the mind. Uh, and this goes into quantum physics and I'm trying to get this guy's name. Marilyn Ferguson. Look her up. I'll probably put the name up here. Uh, and how they're getting a model of physics and brain activity and combining them into a theory of everything. I mentioned Cleet Irwin and those guys earlier. Tesla. There's also Robert Russell. Can't believe I forgot about him. And yeah, these people are developing a theory that fits, that you're able to fits all disciplines in seamlessly, as opposed to this space-time Einstein bullshit that we were talking about earlier, right? So it's kind of the same thing. Uh, and what it does is, and which is what it, like I said, about as above, so below. It says it makes sense with the paradoxical sayings of the mystics from the ages, and it does. You study this stuff and like quantum physics, and you go read the Kabbalion, and you're like, oh, it just all clicks. How do they know? And we all know. Hide those entheogens. Anyway, number 17, self cognition. All right. So we need to define all this stuff before we move on into how the shit works and how we're gonna manipulate it. So Bear with me, even though I think this is just fascinating shit. All right. And so self cognition, how we talks about how we distinguish our consciousness matrix from the conscious matrix of like plants and animals. Is that we know, but you know, like animals know the instinct. They know, they just know the instinct. But humans know we know. So that's the difference between, between animal, plants, and human consciousness matrix. Yeah, but that's the army thinking, right? So some of us have different opinions about that. It is the army, after all. And with the consciousness energy grid, I'll put this graphic up. That's a good little visual after all I've talked about. Um, and again, and so how we're able to extrapolate meaning from the hologram is that we're able to make our own little mini holograms, which is badass. We are creators, and so we can make our own little mini holograms in our head and play out different scenarios and compare and contrast past scenarios, and so and all that stuff is, whew, that's godlike gifts, right? Don't take it for granted. Um, and then again, they do the measure, and they're saying you measure, you go to the scenarios, create your hologram, and then you do the binary go or no go, yes or no, and that's how we make our decisions and place importance on what we see from our reality. All right, 18, time space dimension. I'll take a little break here because this is actually the first. Remember the first sentence. I might have to stop here. Up to this point, our discussion of the gateway process has been relatively simple and easy to follow. So that's the opening sentence of time and space dimension. So it's about to get deep and fun. He says it's about to get fun, and I think it's about to get fun too. So maybe I'll stop this here, and I'm probably gonna go back and edit the titles of these so